Taking care of plants in the midsummer heat can obviously be a challenge, especially with the weather we've been feeling already.
Former HGTV star Paul James, the gardener guy, is sharing some tips and tricks on how to keep your garden hydrated and alive.
News on 6's Meredith McCown is live at Southwood Landscape and Garden Center. Spoiler alert, you know, we've already heard about the water, Meredith.
Yes, spoiler, that is one of the major tips. And if your plants are looking a little droopy or dry lately, it's most likely due to the hot weather. And there are some special ways to take care of them. Yes, like the water. The gardener guy is here to tell us about it, Paul James. And we didn't plan this. We're both wearing red today.
I think we're clashing.
We're twinning. Yeah, Paul thinks we're clashing, but I think it works. You know, the garden out wearing the red. So, Paul, tell us, how do you take care of your plants in this heat?
Well, there's a difference between hot weather and hot and dry weather. We're in the worst conditions of all. Extremely hot, getting hotter. Thank you, Stephen. And no rain in sight. I mean, absolutely none. So plants are already starting to show stress. Lawns are browning out all over town, both fescue and Bermuda. The fescue won't come back. The Bermuda will. Trees I'm beginning to be somewhat concerned about, but all landscape plants are suffering right now. The worst thing you can do, and this is very common with people who have automatic irrigation systems, sprinkler systems, is to water shallowly and infrequently. That's the worst thing. You're just wasting money. The plants are not going to get any of that water. So instead, you've got to turn on the water and let it go. And I mean, we could be talking hours in some cases, so that you deep soak everything in your landscape. You can see David right there. He's watering these ornamental grasses. You know, they can tolerate the heat really well, but they do not tolerate drought as well as you might think.
And you're saying some people might have to make some tough decisions with inflation, choosing between their water bill and keeping their garden alive.
It's a very real concern. I mean, inflation's at 9.1%. People are already paying $500 more a month just to live. And now you're going to add to that an excessive water bill. So these are tough decisions that people have to make, and it's unfortunate. But, you know, if you want your plants to just dry up and disappear, well, that's certainly one possibility. But otherwise, you got to really pour on the water. And I mean, probably this time of year, if you're deep soaking, twice a week should be enough. And if the plants are in the shade as opposed to full sun, maybe once a week is plenty.
And you were saying there are some other ways too. What are some other things besides water that are really important to take note of this summer?
Well, throughout the year, but especially now, mulch is your best friend. Pine bark, cedar mulch, whatever you use, you want to mulch everything in sight. And I'm talking about a 3 to 4 inch layer of mulch. Yes, mulch costs money too, but in the long run, paying for the mulch up front is going to reduce your water bill over time. So it's not only aesthetically pleasing and helps keep the plants alive, but there's some economic benefit to it as well.
And in terms of, so water, lots of water, mulch, and then are there some plants that are better during the summer, or?
There are so-called drought-tolerant plants, but even those have to be watered at some point. They can't, there's no plant that'll survive without any water, unless it's like a, you know, a faux plant, a silk plant. So yeah, you got to water everything. It doesn't matter. There are a lot of plants that thrive in the heat, like lantana, portulaca, a lot of perennials, they thrive in the heat, but they still have to be watered.
Right, so still thriving in the heat, but the water is not an exception to all plants. So, Paul, anything else that you would want to add, or any other advice for people out in the garden this summer?
Yeah, make sure as a gardener you stay hydrated as well. You know, I've come close to being in trouble, spending too much time out in the garden, not paying attention to drinking enough water, and it's an awful feeling, and it can be deadly. So, yeah, in addition to taking care of the plants, gardeners have to take care of themselves.
Some for them and some for you in terms of the water. Well, Paul, thank you so much for the tips. We really appreciate it. We'll go ahead and send it back to you guys.
Great stuff there, Mayor. Thanks.